Brothers and sisters of Burkina Faso, sons and daughters of Africa, we gather with clear eyes and steady hearts. 3 days ago, over the skies of Foutouri, our defenders acted with precision and resolve. Bayraktar drones traced arcs of vigilance above our soil, and 100 armed militants who sought to terrorize our villages were neutralized. This was not a spectacle of force for its own sake. It was the disciplined answer of a nation that will not surrender its fields, its schools, or its future to those who traffic in fear. To the families who have lived too long beneath the shadow of gunmen, this message is for you. You are not forgotten, and you are not alone. The sun rose over Foutouri on the 4th day with children stepping outside to the sounds of goats and market chatter, instead of gunfire. That is the measure of success in this struggle, not numbers on a report but the return of ordinary life. When mothers can walk to the well and farmers can bend to the earth without looking over their shoulders, then we know our actions have meaning. Let the world understand what happened and why. We did not strike to boast, we struck to protect. We acted after intelligence, coordination, and restraint. We acted to keep the balance between strength and responsibility. Our aim was not revenge, but security, not spectacle, but sovereignty. In this fight we are committed to the highest discipline, to spare the innocent, to isolate those who threaten the people, and to keep our hands clean, even when the road is stained by the cruelty of others. Some will say that machines in the sky make war impersonal, but the truth is the opposite. Technology in the service of justice is a shield for the people. Precision is compassion. Every meter of accuracy is a life preserved. Every verified target is a school day restored. Every choice to wait for the right moment, every decision to hold fire when civilians are near. These are acts of moral courage, no less than the bravery of a soldier on the ground. We insist that our power be guided by conscience, and that our victories be measured by the lives we protect. To the militants who remain, hear this in the language of clarity. Lay down your arms, return to your communities, and accept the law of the Republic. There is still room for repentance, for dialogue, for the hard work of reintegration, but there is no room left for terror on this land. You will not govern our nights with threats, and you will not dictate our mornings with fear. Our villages are not your battlegrounds, they are homes. Our roads are not your corridors, they are lifelines of trade and kinship. The people of this nation have chosen life, and we will defend that choice. To our defenders, those who watched the screens, those who guided the wings, those who walked the perimeter, those who kept radios crackling through the dark, know that your discipline honors the flag you serve. A nation sleeps because you stay awake. A nation stands because you kneel to calibrate, to verify, to confirm, to act only when justice demands it. Carry that discipline like a sacred trust. Let no heart grow arrogant. Let no victory dull your vigilance. Power without humility is a danger. Power with humility is guardianship. We must also speak of what comes next, because security is not only the absence of gunfire, it is the presence of dignity. The road to Foutouri must be graded and secured. Markets must open with fair prices. Clinics must have medicine, not excuses. Schools must have chalk and roofs, and teachers who are paid on time. Justice must be visible, the kind that comforts the widow and corrects the corrupt. When the state appears not only with uniforms, but with textbooks, not only with patrols, but with plows, then stability takes root deeper than fear can reach. Let the region hear our intention. We seek cooperation, not confrontation. Borders should be lines of partnership, not cracks for predators to slip through. We will share intelligence with neighbors, lift up joint patrols, coordinate customs and radios and roads. To those who help us build peace, our hand is extended. To those who profit from chaos, our resolve is unshakable. There will be those who question our will, those who whisper that Africa must always endure rather than decide. They are wrong. We are no one's possession and no one's pawn. We will decide how our skies are kept and how our communities are secured. We will refuse the old scripts that say our pain must be managed by others. We write our own script now, one in which villages thrive, law is respected, and those who choose violence face the steady, lawful response of a united people. 3 days ago, the sky over Foutouri spoke with clarity. It said that this land is not abandoned. It said that the arc of our future bends toward order, not anarchy, toward work, not war, toward bread, not blood. Let us answer that message with work worthy of the peace we seek, by sowing fields, stocking clinics, teaching children, and telling the truth, even when the truth is hard. May the families who suffered know comfort. May those who chose violence choose life. May our defenders be guided by discipline and mercy. And may this nation, under the eyes of its ancestors and the hopes of its children, continue to rise, calm, unbroken, and free. The strike was not about boasting or revenge, but about protecting villages, restoring safety, and ensuring ordinary life can continue without fear. Precision as compassion. Technology like Bayraktar drones is used with discipline to avoid harming innocents. Every accurate strike saves lives and restores normalcy to schools, markets, and homes. A clear message to militants. Those who threaten communities are warned, lay down arms and reintegrate peacefully, or face decisive action. Terror has no place in Burkina Faso. Victory must lead to development. Security is more than silencing guns. It must bring schools, clinics, fair markets, and justice so that stability is anchored in dignity, not fear. Sovereignty and regional cooperation. Burkina Faso decides its own security path, while also seeking cooperation with neighbors. The country rejects outside dominance and embraces unity for regional peace. Defense of the people is the heartbeat of every legitimate action we take. It is not a stage for spectacle or a platform to prove strength. When the state moves against violent actors, its first and only moral compass must be the protection of civilians, the mothers who fetch water, the children who walk to school, the traders who keep our markets alive. Measures taken to secure the nation must be judged by this single standard. Do they restore daily life, safety, and dignity to ordinary families? Anything less betrays the very purpose of power. Power without purpose becomes tyranny. Power without prudence becomes a new form of violence. Our actions in Foutouri were measured, purposeful, and directed toward making it safe for a child to play in a courtyard, and for a woman to plant her field without looking over her shoulder. That is the difference between defense and display. Defense demands restraint, clarity, and accountability. It requires that every strike be based on verified intelligence, every operation planned with the minimization of civilian harm as a central objective, and every success followed by immediate steps to secure services and rebuild what was damaged. When a community feels the presence of the state only as a shadow of destruction, wounds widen instead of heal. But when the state arrives with medics, with food, with engineers to fix roads, and with teachers to reopen schools, the people understand that the goal was their protection. That understanding transforms fear into trust and suspicion into cooperation, without which long-term peace is impossible. The instruments of war, drones, surveillance, and weaponry are tools, not trophies. Using them responsibly is an act of compassion, because precision spares lives. When we emphasize accuracy over spectacle, we preserve the moral high ground and deny extremists the narratives they crave, that the people were collateral, or that the state is indifferent to its citizens' suffering. Defense also means transparency. After operations, communities must be informed, families must be given facts, and independent investigations must be allowed where allegations arise. This openness builds legitimacy. Secrecy and arrogance breed rumors and resentment. Finally, defense is followed by development. True victory is measured not by the number of militants neutralized, but by how quickly markets reopen, clinics restock, children return to class, and families begin to rebuild. Security without dignity is hollow. Our mandate is simple: protect the people, restore normal life, and ensure that every act of force is a last resort in service of the broader, enduring goal: human safety and flourishing. Only then does power become rightful guardianship rather than a show of might. Precision in warfare is often spoken of as a technical advantage, better targeting, reduced collateral damage, but it is above all an expression of moral responsibility. When instruments of force are used with care, when each strike is based on verified facts and deliberate judgment, precision becomes an act of compassion. It says to the people whose lives hang in the balance, "We value you. We will not treat you as background to a spectacle of power. We will not trade your safety for a headline." Compassion through precision begins long before a weapon is released. It begins with the intelligence that distinguishes fighters from families, with watchful patience instead of rushed reprisals, with the insistence that verification be more important than vengeance. It requires analysts who cross-check reports, pilots and operators who wait until the risk to civilians is acceptably low, and commanders who refuse the easy path of broad, indiscriminate destruction. Each pause to confirm a target is an act of mercy. Each decision to withhold force when civilians are near is an act of courage. Precision also requires investment in systems that protect the innocent, better surveillance to spot escape routes for civilians, non-lethal options to disperse threats, and medical and evacuation plans ready to respond at once. When a population sees that operations are followed immediately by humanitarian aid, by repairs to water systems and clinics, by security patrols that keep roads open, they understand the purpose was protection, not punishment. That follow-through turns a technical strike into a compassionate intervention. There is a deeper truth: precision prevents cycles of grievance that feed violence. Indiscriminate force breeds resentment, radicalizes survivors, and hands victors to the narratives of those who profit from chaos. But when the state adheres to exacting standards, transparency about targets, independent review when mistakes occur, support for affected families, it preserves legitimacy. People are less likely to trade tomorrow's safety for revenge if they believe the system respects their lives today. Finally, precision as compassion honors the value of each human story. Behind every report is a child's lost school day, a mother's sleepless night, a farmer's empty field. Respecting those small, fragile things is how a people's trust is built. Technology, when wielded responsibly, becomes a shield for the vulnerable rather than a blunt instrument of terror. That is the covenant we owe our citizens: to use power sparingly, accurately, and always with the aim of protecting life and restoring dignity. To those who choose violence and terror, let this be unambiguous: the era in which armed bands could terrorize villages and extort livelihoods is over. The community will no longer be a battlefield for those who profit from chaos. This message is not vengeance dressed as rhetoric, but a clear and lawful warning. Lay down your weapons, return to your homes, and accept the rule of law, or face decisive, proportionate action. There is room for reintegration for those who repent. There will be no sanctuary for those who insist on spreading fear. We offer a path back to civilian life for fighters who surrender and commit to rehabilitation. Reintegration programs, vocational training, and community reconciliation can repair the fractures that war creates. Families who have been ripped apart by violence deserve to see their sons and daughters restored as teachers, farmers, and tradespeople, not counted forever among the armed dead. This is an offer grounded in practicality as much as mercy. One peaceful life restored is worth more than 100 empty victories. Rebuilding trust takes work, education, jobs, safe homes, and we will provide the means for reintegration where genuine remorse is shown. But for those who reject peace, understand the consequences. Security forces will act with precision and restraint, guided by verified intelligence and legal oversight. Operations will be targeted at armed combatants and command nodes, not communities. The choice is straightforward: abandon the path of terror and be welcomed back, or continue to threaten innocence and be neutralized according to the law. There will be no safe havens, no cross-border excuses, and no impunity for those who continue to spread violence. The state will close gaps in governance and deny space for criminal patronage. Communities have a critical role to play. Neighbors who hide militants or tolerate their presence must understand they are complicit in prolonging suffering. Reporting networks, local councils, and cooperative security measures provide alternatives to silence. When a village chooses protection over submission, that village protects itself and its neighbors. The fight against terrorism is not only military, it is social and communal, rooted in trust and mutual responsibility, civic courage, speaking truth, sharing information, supporting reconciliation, breaks the cycles that armed groups exploit. Finally, this message reaches those who fund, arm, or shelter extremists. External actors who enable violence must know that their interference damages regional stability and will be countered through diplomacy, intelligence sharing, and lawful pressure. The goal is clear: shrink the space where militants can operate, until the choice to lay down arms is the only rational option. Peace is not the absence of actors, it is the presence of justice, opportunity and community. Choose peace, choose life, right now. Victory must lead to development. Victory after conflict must be the doorway to reconstruction, opportunity and dignity for every citizen. When arms fall silent and a region is cleared of violence, the true test begins, converting military success into lasting development that repairs lives and creates futures. Infrastructure projects must prioritize people's daily needs, roads rebuilt, not for patrols but for farmers, carrying produce to market, clinics restored and stocked, so mothers trust healthcare and schools reopened, so children recover the classroom rhythm they were denied. Development is not a trophy, it is the labor that makes safety meaningful. Recovery must be both immediate and sustained. Rapid relief, cash for work programs, emergency medical teams, seed and tool distributions and temporary classrooms delivers hope and prevents desperation that breeds relapse. Those urgent measures must be paired with long-term investment. Durable roads, reliable electricity, permanent clinics, teacher training, water systems, and markets that attract trade. Development that appears only as a headline and then vanishes will not hold back the return of violence. Durable projects anchored in local needs build resilience over generations. Equity and transparency are not optional, they are essential. Projects must serve the most affected communities, not narrow interests. Procurement, budgeting, and hiring must be open to scrutiny so corruption cannot hollow out gains. Local councils and traditional leaders should participate in planning to ensure the work reflects real needs. When citizens see fairness in reconstruction, they see the state as legitimate and worth defending, the single greatest deterrent to spoilers who count on grievance and neglect. Economic opportunity is the strongest prevention against recruitment into armed groups. Vocational training, support for small businesses, microcredit for farmers and artisans, and programs that link young people to employment make guns less attractive. Reintegrating former fighters with skills and livelihoods reduces recidivism, ensuring land rights, resolving disputes fairly, and securing water and grazing resources protect livelihoods so families do not turn to violence out of necessity. Security and development must move together. Patrols and intelligence disrupt immediate threats, while development eliminates the conditions that allow those threats to grow. Civic services, courts that deliver justice, clinics that heal, schools that teach, are themselves forms of security because they restore dignity and predictability to daily life. Finally, true victory includes healing, truth-telling, compensation for victims, and community reconciliation that addresses grievances. Infrastructure without justice leaves scars unhealed. Victory that leads to development is measured not by monuments, but by children in classrooms, markets full of grain, and families who sleep without fear. That is how sacrifice becomes a foundation for a stable, prosperous future. Let this be our promise and our enduring mission. Sovereignty means a people determines its own future, writes its laws, and manages its resources without becoming a bargaining chip in foreign rooms. It is not arrogance or isolation, it is the obligation to build institutions that protect citizens, deliver justice, and provide security and services. A sovereign state answers to its people first. It cares for children in classrooms, for farmers in fields, for patients in clinics. Without these basics, sovereignty is an empty phrase. Regional cooperation strengthens that sovereignty. Neighbors who coordinate on security, intelligence, and logistics close the routes extremists use. Shared infrastructure, roads, power lines, markets, turns isolated economies into connected ones, and raises the living standards of entire regions. Trade agreements that remove barriers while protecting local producers create jobs. Joint training, common standards, and mutual assistance in disasters make each nation more resilient than it could be alone. Sovereignty and cooperation are complementary, not contradictory. A nation that cuts itself off loses leverage on the international stage and becomes vulnerable to predatory influence. A region without trust becomes a corridor for violence and illicit profit. Therefore, sovereign states should engage with neighbors from positions of dignity and reciprocity, defense partnerships that respect borders, economic pacts that prioritize local value, and legal frameworks that streamline trade while upholding rights. Building this partnership requires practical steps and moral clarity. Start with transparency in agreements so citizens understand costs and benefits. Invest in shared institutions, regional health centers, joint border commissions, and cross-border educational programs that deliver visible results. Strengthen customs cooperation to curb smuggling and create predictable markets. And prioritize mechanisms for conflict resolution so disputes are settled by law, not by force. Trust is the most valuable asset. It is earned by consistent behavior, honoring commitments, protecting minorities, and allowing independent oversight. Small cooperative acts, joint patrols, coordinated firefighting, student exchanges produce patterns of collaboration that scale into strategic alliances. Importantly, cooperation must be equal. Partnerships that reproduce dependency undermine sovereignty and breed resentment. Ultimately, true sovereignty is not measured by isolation, but by the capacity to choose partners on equal terms and to combine strength with solidarity. When nations secure their people and neighbors stand with them, security becomes durable and prosperity becomes shared. In that equilibrium, self-reliance reinforced by regional bonds, lies the best hope for lasting peace and a future authored by the people themselves. Let us therefore pursue both independence in decision and unity in action for our children's sake, always.